My name is Jason Dunn, Chief Executive Officer of the National Coalition of Black Media Professionals, and thank you for attending our second session of the Black Table, which is gray. Just say it. It cool. Look, cool. We good. We good. So this is our second edition of this. Our first one was an ASAE, and this is the IMEX edition this year. And so we have about 10 of our expert professionals here who are members, some whom are not, to talk about their journey in hospitality and to hopefully inspire each of you as we share this, not just here, but also we're going to put it on LinkedIn and all of our social media platforms. Thank you to our sponsor, Ricardo Hicks with Tech Factory, who's assisting us with our podcast and all those things. Okay. Like, what is going on? All right, cool. So, we have Zoe Moore, who is the CEO of Moore Consulting Agency, and let's welcome her. A big round of applause. Welcome her. Yay! So Zoe, we're going to cover a couple questions. We do have one mic. The second one is coming, so they had some problems, but we're going to make it work. We're so black. How you doing, bro? And so let's talk about your journey. How did you enter into the consulting field, and kind of, let's walk us through that.
So my journey begins with MPI Northern California chapter. I was fresh out the Army, so I'm an Army veteran, and I was a student in California, Cal State East Bay. Learned first about the industry at an annual conference and immediately realized the lack of representation just in senior leadership roles, through the different booths, through those who were attending, and just started asking a lot of questions. And that's what consultants do, is we ask a lot of questions. I learned that diversity, equity, and inclusion was not talked about enough or strategically within the industry. And so I pursued a certification as a diversity practitioner and just trained and asked more questions, and then eventually launched my company. It took about 3 or 4 iterations, but launched it in 2021 and refer to myself now as a strategic EDI consultant, helping organizations and individuals go from their aspirational goals to operational practices and developing their DEI strategy.
So before that, thank you for that. Before that, let's talk about the Zoe before the industry. Let's talk about the Army. Walk us through that process, and what did you learn that you applied to starting your business, which helps you be successful today?
So, the key moment was I was in Korea, and that was around the time that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was lifted. So Don't Ask, Don't Tell was that legislation that told people in the LGBTQ community that they couldn't talk about, their lifestyle in the Army or they would be kicked out. And so it got lifted, and my first sergeant was a country Southern boy, and he was like, I ain't talking about any of that. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to broach the subject. And I'm going to just tell anybody if they say anything, off color, that they're going to get kicked out. And I was like, First Sergeant, you can't do that. And he was like, well, you do it. You get in front of the formation and tell us how we're going to handle this. And I was like, what? And so he was like, you're going to go to equal opportunity training. He sent me to equal opportunity training. I was a representative for about 2 years for my unit, giving classes, helping different issues around sexual harassment. And so I never knew that I would use that training in the Army, in the hospitality industry, but they just begin to intersect as I was able to have the conversation, had already been trained, was having hard conversations around, serving between, different individuals of marginalized identities. And so I was talking about that in the Army, and it became something I was passionate about because I had soldiers that were amazing, and just because they didn't identify the same way that I did, or we had different lifestyles, that they were being disrespected. So I always became an advocate and a voice for those who were undervalued or unseen. And so I just kind of used that same mentality to really start talking about the importance of representation in leadership and supplier diversity, and just saying, hey, how do we have this conversation where it's not taboo? So that's where it began.
So you went for the Army. You have any siblings, or?
That's a whole long story. No, it's all good. I mean, he has some kids. No, but in all fairness, it just about a week ago, I reunited my biological parents, my what I call my paternal human, and my mom. Together to sign some paperwork so we could get it all, updated. So yes, I have three siblings, one that is about 7 months older than me. Okay.
Message. We get it. Understood this problem. So I just have to say, because a lot of times, depending upon if you have assumption that played into your leadership style. And so that's why I asked the question, but I hear you. And so at what point you leave the military, retired or left?
Medically retired.
Cool. Okay, you retire, and then what caused you to jump and take the entrepreneur journey, or is that a second step, or was that the first step?
It was a reaction, honestly. I got out of the army. Again, I had 2 degrees by the time I got out. I was working at the NSA, so I thought I was gonna coast. I thought I was gonna immediately be offered six figures, in cybersecurity because cybersecurity was new. And when I got out, the first job that I was offered was in California. So if you know the economy in California, the job offer was for $31,000. And I said, I think you missed some zeros. And I said, where am I live? And so the woman on the phone said to me, well, I could have offered you 55, but I was like, well, why didn't you start there? And so it was a reaction to saying, like, nobody is ever going to undervalue me. Like, I deserve way more than 31,000 or 55,000. And so I was talking to a chef at an event. He said he needed some support in being managed or being supported, and I just said I could do it. I could manage a soldier, I could manage a chef, and that kind of broke me into the industry of helping him navigate around, getting contracts, getting catering gigs, talking to different caterers.
So would you attribute your journey from the military and your upbringing to give you the confidence to make that jump? Because some people starting a business is not a easy decision, particularly if you don't have an income coming in. So I mean, walk us through that, right? And then second, what were some of the pitfalls that you experienced before you actually said I'm going to do it and be successful?
And I'll be really transparent, right? Because I'm medically retired from the Army, I do have this cushion of uh, being a service disabled veteran. And so I do get a pension, right? So that allowed me to transition from out of the Army into civilian life. I had time to think about what was next. I really did want that six figures. And living in California was a challenge. With my son at the time, he was 10 years old. And so it was like, okay, how do I provide for him and things like that? So with that cushion, I just started, building different iterations of my business, asking questions around what it was like to be a DEI consultant within the industry. And that was brand new at the time. I mean, that was 8 years ago, right? And so DEI in the meetings and events industry was not a topic that we were discussing. And so I tried multiple angles. I was a resource evangelist. I was, all kinds of different titles to introduce myself and what services I could provide. And then, I started businesses with other people. That fell through. Definitely a pitfall. People not understanding the vision or feeling like you're more, outspoken or, popular than they are, or they don't see the balance of a team or know how to support. Also, people, get into entrepreneurship, and like you said, the money's not coming in right away, and they got to pay bills and things like that. And I had, the privilege of having this pension and this cushion. And so by 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, I was closing down my business. I had come back from Istanbul, Turkey. I had an offer to work with Turkish Airlines to do some DEI work with them. I had come back. And then I was shutting everything down, and then my inbox blew up. And it started with executive teams reaching out saying, we need to write a statement. We need help. We need support. My calendar filled up. A colleague who I had worked with in MPI, Northern California chapter, reached out and was like, let's start a business together. I'm going to help you manage your calendar, speaking gigs, consulting gigs. And then that didn't work out after 6 months. And so I started more consulting agency. And within 1 year, I hit six figures. and it just skyrocketed, and I didn't know what to do because, as the philosopher Biggie says, "More money, more problems." And I didn't have a team. I didn't necessarily want it to scale, and I had defined what I was doing, but it was still very new in this industry where you need a title. And we've talked about this plenty of times, where you kind of need a title to navigate into certain rooms. So while I'm still kicking and pushing, I'm still trying to figure out what that next transition is. But yeah, I mean, the military helped me be very diligent, determined. I could go into a very empty space, whether it be Korea or Germany or whatever, and go right to the 4-star general and have a conversation and get the resources that I needed. And so I wanted to be that person as an entrepreneur. And so I just used those transferable skills to build my business. But you're right, it was not easy. Even when you do hit a financial goal, there are more challenges that get there.
So you from the military, you made a decision to jump. Your son is involved in a lot of your activities in your profession. You are a successful businesswoman, CEO. What are some of your weaknesses that you had to work on to make sure that you are successful in what you're doing, and then that business journey to find that acumen to make sure you're balancing it out with your family and profession?
I mean, it's that right there. I didn't go to business school, and so I'm Googling everything, and now Chat GPT and Claude, and trying to figure out the terminology, or when someone says an acronym and you don't know, enough about the industry, because I've never been in one of those roles. So that's one of my biggest insecurities, is starting as an entrepreneur, as a student, in the industry, and then now being in rooms like with the likes of yourself and Melinda and everyone here, and they have these titles, they have 21 years and plus in the industry, and I'm a newbie, and so how do I have conversations with people who are managing large budgets, and then also telling them, here's what you need to do with those budgets, or have you thought about this? And so there's that insecurity of not having the same journey, but also understanding the value of having a different perspective and what I can bring to the table.
All right, so we went through the whole journey, right? What can you tell people in the audience, physically and virtually?
Check.
The three things that have inspired you to keep going, and what in the industry do you determine is a gap that you alone can fill? A good question, right? I know. I've worked on them.
Check.
Feeling yourself a little bit. All right. Okay. A little bit. So the three things, and then the one gap that I can only fill. So the three things is something that inspired me when I first got started. Danielle Leslie did a keynote on your own story. You know who Danielle Leslie is, probably. So Danielle Leslie, she is a powerhouse in just several different tech industry and things like that. And she did this keynote around understanding the value of your story, that no one can be you. And so once you understand that, in every room that you're in, you belong there, because they will not see what the necessary changes or opportunities are without your voice, because you bring that perspective. So understand your value, know the value of your story,
Check.
and speak up.
Check.
Speak up to be heard. Complaining in the background, giving your opinion in the background, it will never get heard. Speak up. Let people know what you are seeing because of those former two. Your story has value. You have value. You belong in every room. And the one thing that I would say that only I can feel, that's not how I think. If anything, especially being in the Army, being an NCO, non-commissioned officer, I'm always thinking about how I can empower more people. So how can I replicate myself when I'm doing an event? I always find a team member and share what I'm working on so I can get their support and their help. And then when it comes to mentors, I'm not intimidated by anybody. I want to know what you know and how I can support you. And so it's my willingness to collaborate, makes me someone that knows that I'm not the only one, that my role is to empower others.
My last question is, so
Check.
you're coming to the conference. What has Coalition done or can it do to help you be more successful than what you already are?
Cue
Check.
James Brown. I'm black and I'm proud.
Check. 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 Check.
I mean, the coalition just gives me space to be me, holds me accountable to being
Check.
me and letting my melanin shine. Jason won't leave me alone and always holds me accountable to showing up with excellence and reminds me of all the things and opportunities that are out there. So it's network that I can reach into, whether
check,
that
check,
be
check,
on
check.
WhatsApp group. So make sure you all are part of the WhatsApp group. On LinkedIn, I can praise my mentors, I can empower others, but it's that common language, that common body language, that spoken word, that unspoken words that we can pass each other in the hallways and give that nod. There's too many people I was like, we already know what it means. So Coalition gives me, I think Najana said it really well, Najana White, like, it gives me the space to be free, to be me, you know.
Well, let's give Joe a round of applause for all of her words of encouragement.
Check. Check.
And each of you who are not members, go to ncbmp.com, ncbmp.com, and press join now or join us. And we have a dual membership with PCMA, dual membership with MPI, and working on a partnership with ASAE. So we're all over the place. We're here and there. And also come to the conference, November 13th through the 16th in Birmingham, Alabama. Again, ncbmp.com for more information. Thank you so much for coming. Yes. All right. Thanks so much.